Welcome to a brief overview of the DECT PDM12 module and XT5 touchscreen. So let's talk a little bit about the PDM. This PDM12 indicates it has 12 channels or 12 outputs. You can see we're using ruggedized connectors here for the outputs. We've also got some network connectors here as well. And over here we have our 12 volt main power input. Let's take a closer look at the PDM. So here's your 12 volt main power stud. As you can see, we've got a torque value set here as well as indication that this needs to be 12 volt positive. This is 12 volt DC system. We're grounding through the connector. So there are two inputs here for main module ground. As you can see in this demonstration, I'm only using one ground input, but it's indicated here on the board or on the label that both of these pins are ground. Here is an input pin for module number. If you want to have more than one of these modules in a system, you can address these different addresses so that it can be identified as module 1 or module 2. Here is a power disconnect input, and that allows you to maintain main power on your system, but allows you to also perform a disconnect to power the system down in the case of, say, an ignition system, and that prevents you from drawing excessive power from the battery when you don't want to. So it's like a remote disconnect. It could be used with an ignition-based system or just a regular on-off switch, but that's what that's there for. Because this is a CAN-based system, the module needs to have a terminator. So this is a terminator jumper right here, where when both of these pins are jumpered together, the terminator is enabled. I'll make a video later on going into more details on why a terminator is important and when you'd want to use it and have it enabled or disabled. These pins on this side of the connector, the black connector, are all outputs. They're individual outputs. So 6 individual outputs on this connector, on this side of the connector. And then on the gray connector, we have more outputs here, but you can see we're not using them and they're currently capped off with the supplied connector plugs, as you see here. So this setup here allows you to connect more than one network device. Currently we have a screen, as you can see right here, connected to one of these ports. But if we wanted to access this network port, we can easily do that by removing this plug or cap. And we can connect another screen here or another PDM very simply, just with a simple network cable like you see here, and plug it in, and now you've easily expanded your system. You can have 2 of these PDMs set up just like this, and then the other PDM would have a spare port, which you could also use to power another screen. So you could have up to 24 different channels with the 2 PDMs and 2 screens if you so desired. Now the main star of the show here is the touchscreen and what you can do with a system like this. So here is the home screen. Here we have settings, so you tap on settings, and you can adjust a few things like screen brightness, screen backlight timeout. Then you also have settings for button settings, load settings, diagnostics, and if you want, you can change the background color on your homepage if you desire. So screen brightness is self-explanatory, as you can see here. You can adjust the screen brightness. Screen backlight timeout is basically what it says. If you reduce the timeout to 1 minute, the screen will time out or go black in 1 minute. If you want to leave the screen on indefinitely, you're welcome to do that, sliding it all the way to infinity. In button settings, this is where you would enter to add buttons to your home screen and configure your buttons. In load settings, this is where you can turn on different channels, test the output, which allows you to configure the polarity of the output. You can set your limit here for your current limit, think of this as like a fuse. If the load that you are connecting to this output, channel 1 in this case, specifies that it should be fused on a 5 amp fuse, you would select 5 amps. And this is essentially setting your fuse. If it was supposed to run or be fused on a 10 amp fuse, you would select 10 amps. And here is your live current. So for example, say you wired in your load to your connector and you wanted to test it, you could easily do that by turning on this channel. And when the load powers on, you would see a live current right here showing you how much current that load is drawing at the same time. So that's a really useful feature for testing your limit and also verifying how much current that load actually draws. Let's go back. Diagnostics provides some information about the touch screen. It tells you the type of the screen you have. Some also firmware information over here, and some other information as well as your output module. You can tap on your PDM module and it'll give you status indications for all 12 channels. It'll tell you if they're good. If you have an overcurrent situation, it would tell you that as well. It'll show you the current draw, and here's the programmed current. As you can see, we changed output 1 to 10 amps as a programmed current. So everything else is currently set to 5 amps and 1 amp, but we specifically changed output 1 to 10 amps, and that's indicating here. And total current draw, this is a sum of all the current that's being drawn right now through the module, and that'll show up here as well. So here on the button settings page, you can see we have a grid of buttons that we could potentially add. Let's go ahead here and follow instructions. So it says tap to add new button. So let's tap, and you can see it says now tap to edit button, and the text changed to new button. So here we have the button name we can customize. So let's go ahead and change that to rock lights. As you can see, we also can adjust the polarity. We can choose between a positive, 12 volt positive, or a low side, 12 volt negative output. In this case, I'm going to select positive because the light manufacturer requires the high side to be switched. I'm going to leave the start on hard. So I've got an option here between a hard start and a soft start. What that means with hard start is when you turn on the output, it'll turn on from 0% to 100% instantly. If I chose a soft start, it'll ramp on and ramp off the output. So it'll be a nice effect turning on, so the light will turn on from a dimmed value and slowly increase the full brightness. And then when you turn it off, it'll slowly dim down from 100% slowly down to 0% brightness. For these lights, I don't need that or want that. This feature would be nice for an interior light, but on the outside of a motorhome or a truck, I'm going to leave this as a hard start. Dimming, I can choose if I want the output to dim or not. In this case, I'm going to leave it so that it doesn't dim. I can also choose how long I want the output to stay on for. In this case, I'm going to leave it infinite so it stays on for the entire time that I have the switch turned on. So my output selection section is very simple and easy to use. Channel 1 here corresponds with number 1 on the PDM here. Channel 2 corresponds to number 2 on the PDM label here. So if I select channel 1, like I just did, now when I turn on this button, it'll turn on the outputs here on channel 1. If I also tap number 2, which I can do, I can select one or multiple outputs here. Now I'm controlling output 1 and 2. So outputs 1 and outputs 2. Right, so each of these pairs are being turned on. I can go through and I can turn on multiple channels if I wanted to. In this case, I just want to turn on channel 1. And as you can see here, you can see there are other graphical elements like this black minus in these, as well as this plus in this channel here, channel 12. This indicates that there's other buttons in the system already using these channels. Now, because these are minuses, this indicates that these channels are being switched to the low side, which means when they turn on, they'll output a ground signal. This channel has a positive, a red plus in it, indicating that it is programmed to be a 12 volt positive channel, so a high side channel, and that's how that's indicated. Now, one thing to note is you cannot, like if I'm configuring this button for positive load, I cannot switch both a positive and a negative at the same time. You can see I'm tapping here on the positive and I cannot enable that output. However, if I want to, I can tie another output that is already used by button to this button just by tapping on it, as you can see there, as long as it is the same polarity as the button I'm programming right now. So if I was programming this as a negative button, then I can go ahead and select some negative channels that are already selected, like you can see here, but I cannot select the positive channel that's already selected. So again, I just want this to be positive, a hard start, no dimming, infinite duration, and channel 1. Go ahead and select OK. So now my button is set. It indicates now as rock lights. When I go home, I have my rock lights button on my touchscreen, and I can quickly turn it on and off. And as you can see, I just quickly created a button. Now I can go ahead and quickly just go ahead and create a ton of new buttons here, like that, which you can see now I have a grid of 9 buttons. And to delete buttons, you can go into each button and just simply and quickly delete it. So on the buttons, as you can see, we have a ring here. When the circuit turns on, the ring turns green. When the circuit turns off, the ring is gray. Now if I change this to a slow start or a soft start, you'll see that it's indicating the button or the output slowly turning on and then slowly turning off. So you can see how compact this system is, how powerful the system is. I mean, you can do up to 24 amps per channel here. So it does have, fairly high capacity on the outputs. It is convenient and it is smart and very simple to set up and operate. So the nice thing about this is that it is always here and ready to go. As you can see as well, it quickly boots up. So I'll just do a quick power reset. And as you can see there, it is powered up and ready to go. So while I have you on this video, I'd like to show you a pretty cool feature here that can be set up with the system. So, of course, it can be used to control lights. That simply requires a 12 volt output, and I can demonstrate that here by just pressing this power button. As you can see, the light turns on and the light turns off. Here's an indication of using a soft start on my power. So you can see the light turns on nice, it fades on, and it fades off. In this case, I'm also using an RGB light here. And to control RGB, you need to have a 12 volt, a high side, and low side. Typically, the lights are powered by the high side line, and then all the colors are switched on the ground side or the low side. With this system, it's very easy and simple to set that up, as you can see here. So as you can see, the white channel is turned on, and if I turn on my power, white turns on. If I selected blue, I've got a blue light, and so on. I can just leave my power channel on and control different colors quickly and easily. Mix different colors. You can see how easy this is to control and set up. Now it's dimmed quite low. So that's really cool. And I'm doing this on page 2. So I've got 2 pages on the screen. So I could have my main lights on this page. And if I wanted to, I could hide my RGB controls on page 2. So in theory, you could have 9 circuits or 9 different buttons on this page and 9 other buttons on this page, page 2, for a total of 18 individual buttons. So let's go in and take a look at how I configured this. So I'll go to button settings, go to page 2 settings, and as you can see, I have a button for power button, red, green, blue, and white. So if I tap on my power button, you can see I have it set for channel 12. So the white ring indicates that this button is controlling those circuits. So power button, polarity is positive, a soft start, and I do have dimming on. For the red circuit, it's a negative output. It'll stay on indefinitely, and it's currently set to channel 8 as a negative output. Green is on channel 9, blue, channel 10, white, channel 11. So very quickly, I used my system here to control RGB. And you can see it works very well. In a future software update, we plan to have a dedicated RGB section here that'll allow you to mix colors, like an infinite mix, and an actually dedicated RGB mode where it'll cycle through colors and so on. But this is kind of a hack to go through and set up manually for quick and easy control of RGB. Thank you for watching this video and taking some time to learn a bit more about the system. Thank you all for watching, and see you on the next video.